Welcome to the T-Pac Arcade. Today's game is Dragon Saber for the NEC PC Engine. In this 1991 shoot-'em-up from Namco, it's the future, where we've inevitably desolated the planet, so the sun goddess Arya sends two transforming knights to purge the world of evil. And just what do these transforming knights transform into? Sky lizards! Yeah! So Dragon Saber maintains the core gameplay of its predecessor, Dragon Spirit. You fly your sky lizard across vertically scrolling fantasy lands, breathing fire on airborne enemies, dropping bombs on ground targets, and evolving into several different flavors of sky lizard with item pickups, like the good old Freezy Pop Flyer, or everybody's favorite, Avian Lightning Lizard. And they all have different attacks and power shots, which charge whenever you let up on the action button, like giant aura projection dragon launchers and thunderbolt bursts. Of course, there are also more standard item pickups, like health to replenish your 3-hit life bar, speed ups, and the stock upgrades obtained from flashing enemies or bombable eggs. Red for firepower boosts, and blue for more heads. Sure, more heads means more surface area open to enemy bullets, but it also means more mouths to breathe fire from. Heck yeah! And you'll need all the firepower you can get to make it through all 9 levels here. Stage 1 is a lake, teeming with sea monsters and jumpy creatures who seem to think they're flying squirrels. And it ends with a boss fight against a big disgusting flesh plant with a snaking retractable eyeball. Cool, but also, ugh. Stage 2 is a journey across lava pits full of gross wiggly centipedes and a blazing serpent. This is a boss fight where you quite literally fight fire with fire. Pass me the gasoline. Stage 3 is some kind of temple with roots on the floor and shifting purple walls to box you in. Here, you've got to dodge ghost heads as they conjure themselves up to rush you in the wake of bigger enemies. Then it's off to the skeleton spider who tries to snare you in its bubble webs. Stage 4, oddly enough, is a pretty garden. Aw, but the flowers here are real mean because they suck you in like black holes while more flying squirrel lizards collide with you. And just when you think you've had enough of mean old nature, a skull tree shows up to simultaneously slap and incinerate you to death. But if you manage to beat it, the time-space continuum inexplicably warps beyond control as you transition to the next level. I have no clue what's going on here. Anyway, we're back to quote-unquote normal with Stage 5, the obligatory speed round where you snake through corridors, blasting wall growths, and plowing through metal barriers. Until you reach the waterfall, where a triple-faced guardian head spits rocks at you, then proceeds to fragment itself into a pinwheel of fatality. How am I supposed to blast apart a bad guy who already does that to itself? I don't know. Stage 6 is the Frozen Sea, with ice turtles and ice dragons and ice walls, and a rehash of the Fire Serpent boss, except this time it's made of, wait for it, ice. And it attacks with, wait for it again, ice. Stage 7 is the classic body horror stage, where you follow a spine down fleshy corridors, dodging pointy ribs and bombing eyeballs that crop up like creepy cabbages. Here, you encounter the most disorienting boss fight of the game, a winged beast who looks like it's made of cabbages, and also meat, but the only way to fight it seems to be by loitering in the upper corners of the screen, then periodically diving down with a charge shot as soon as the ghosties stop coming. Because anytime you linger on the bottom half of the playfield, Mr. Meat Cabbage slaughters you with pink orbs that are near impossible to dodge. The penultimate stage isn't really a stage at all, just a corridor full of power-ups to prepare you for the final gauntlet. A high-tech dungeon riddled with lasers and turrets and spears and all sorts of other stuff that's probably bad for your overall well-being. Of course, at the end of the dungeon lies the final boss, the evil spirit who's taken control of sun goddess Arya. It's basically this cloaked knight who attacks you with boomerangs, sends its skeleton shoulder pads to dive bomb you like a bird of prey, and for some reason materializes squids from its glowing outline. Unfortunately, beating it is just as hard as understanding it, since it only takes damage from charge shots, and unless you've got a speed upgrade, you'll never be able to outrun those angry shoulder pads. Needless to say, I found Dragon Saber incredibly difficult, mainly for 2 reasons. First, your hitbox is huge, considering your entire wingspan is vulnerable to damage. And second, the enemies are designed to specifically exploit this with really tight placements and attack patterns. I did my best to mitigate the challenge by playing on easy mode with max lives, but ultimately, I still needed to cheat through with save states. The graphics in Dragon Saber are definitely a highlight of the game. Not only do the fantasy aesthetics help it stand out from more traditional sci-fi shoot-'em-ups, but they're unique in their own right, rather than following stock sort of dragons and magic tropes. I especially like the finely detailed, highly animated insects and serpents, with their creepy scuttling appendages and mesmerizing winding tails. I also appreciate how well integrated the backgrounds are with the gameplay, like the shifting ice tunnels and trap-ridden dungeon walls. Even your dragon sprite goes above and beyond with all its distinct evolutions. More fire-breathing heads? Yes please! The chiptunes here are also well integrated as melodic fantasy background tracks. The balance of music versus sound effects is a bit off though. While most shoot-'em-ups suffer from drowning out the soundscape with blasters and explosions, Dragon Saber's effects are subdued almost to a fault. My favorite part of this game was trying out all the various charge shots, since they're unique to each type of dragon and all effective in different ways. But if I could change one thing here, I'd have the bosses go down in fewer hits. These guys are like veritable fire sponges, and their attack patterns are already hard enough to survive for 1 or 2 cycles, let alone a dozen. So overall, Dragon Saber is a fun but frustrating fantasy shooter. Maybe my expectations for it were a little too high since the NES port of Dragon Spirit was one of my favorites, but even still, you really can't complain about a game where you control magic, flying, multi-headed lightning lizards.